The Trailblazers Conclave 2.0 kicked off at a completely packed gathering at the Calcutta Sports Journalists Club. Pulela Gopichand, the Indian national badminton coach, was in attendance, and the media loved to interact with Gopi sir. And Gopi, despite ill health, was in fine fettle in terms of answering the questions. Taking questions from Olympic Games about Satvik and Chirag making it to the podium, to Gayatri Gopichand, who celebrated her birthday yesterday, and of course on HS Pranoy, Gopi answered every possible question, lasting a 1 hour 25-minute press conference. A lot of our media colleagues requested for one-on-one interviews, and again, with permission from Gopichand, we managed to facilitate them. At the end of the press conference, everyone was a happy sight. The moot point of the Trailblazers Conclave is that it is a conclave by journalists and for journalists. We are scribes. We have been covering sport for years, and we understand what it takes for everyone to cover sport with passion and commitment and get access to the best. And that is what we tried to do at the inaugural press conference. Over the next couple of days, we will do exactly this. We have invited all our media friends to the conclave. They will have access to all the sessions. They will have access to ask the athletes questions as part of the sessions, and then of course write about it. The moot point is to get together athletes, media, corporate, policymakers, federation to try and create a sporting ecosystem of a kind that India hasn't seen. Facilitate dialogue. Facilitate the creation of a white paper which subsequently will help the Indian sporting ecosystem. If the press conference is taken as an index, clearly the media was happy. Our colleagues were happy. We consider them to be a part of us, and that's what RevSportz stands for. For years and years, sports journalists have been discriminated against. News reporters, political editors, editors of prime-time news have always sent these sports journalists to tours, and then just when a Neeraj Chopra happens or an Abhinav Bindra happens, they are told to facilitate the interview for the 9 p.m. show anchor. This is what discrimination is all about, and it's time to change that discourse. We, as part of the sports media fraternity, need to come together, do our interviews, do our stories, and back each other up. If political journalists can travel across the world with political luminaries and ministers, what or who decides that a Neeraj Chopra event in Switzerland should not be covered? Why is it that only when sporting events come up are we cited budget constraints? These are things that we have all experienced over the years, and these are things that we at RevSportz want to counter. That's what we decided and discussed as part of the press conference at the launch of the Trailblazers Conclave 2.0, and that is what we will want to redeem and redress as part of the 2-day conclave in Kolkata on 7th and the 8th. And let's say this is just the beginning, because all of us need to back each other up for the betterment of Indian sport. Look at these happy faces, look at these questions, and look at the coverage, the extent of the coverage, and you will know how successful the press conference was. Once again, I end with a plea to my colleagues in the media: come and join us, because this is as much your event as ours.
Well, I think sport, as I've said this, and I don't want to go on elaborating. As I've said, sport performance is something which needs to be left to professionals. And the one aspect which will be very important in us going forward. And today as a country, the last 10 years, we've really invested in sport as a country. The central government has actually taken a very big step to ensure that sport is really big. And I've spoken to our Honorable Prime Minister, I've spoken to our Amit Shah ji, and Sports Minister. And we know that the direction from the top is clearly that India needs to do big in sport. And there will be a lot of areas which need to be ironed out. to actually get to that next level. And one of the key things in my view would be that, and I remember this from the last time when Prime Minister had said that there was a bridge to be built, and he said the bridge is to be built by the Roads and Buildings Department. There needs to be a overbridge of a train crossing, and the railways needed permission, the municipality needed to give permission, and the Roads and Buildings Department needs to. And there was nobody there to coordinate between all of the government agencies. In some sense, that's where sport is. Today, when we look at sport, we are looking at players, parents, academies, associations, clubs, sponsors, universities, PSUs, agents. There are like 10 people in that ecosystem, government, state government, and then who is there to coordinate this journey? I think that will be very, very important. The people with the right kind of knowledge to performance should be the ones who should be guiding this journey. And we cannot leave it to either market forces or political interference to actually happen that. So that for me is the very essence. Because this subject is something which is very new, which has not had a problem. Because back in the day, if we were talking, nobody is here as sports journalist. Only when you win, somebody is coming. No conclave is held to what is happening to sport, what is happening. When you look at the subjects which are covered, they're like Paralympics, they're like refugee sport, there's physical literacy, there's mental health, there's performance anxiety. You're talking about various things, sports science, technology in sport. All of these things have come up, and you've got many people in the ecosystem, and everybody has a good intention also. It's like nothing. But who is there to actually sit down and say that this is your role and this is where it ends, and you have to transfer your role to the next person who takes it from here to here? I think that is what is happening. So it needs a little more direction because of the unprecedented growth in sport. We have to make some decisions, and that kind of a body is required. If you look at the entire ecosystem of sport today, there's open schooling, there is, in general, there is a lot more respect to sport than there's ever been. I had the fortune to meet the director of IIT, Chennai, and he said one of his things is to actually produce an Olympian from IIT. So these were things which were never thought about, and this was like very different kind of a thing. Today, acceptability of sport is far more, and today all of us here are saying if my kid were to take up sport, I have no problem. I think that very perception of sport itself is a huge thing. It takes many centuries to actually, or generations to actually get this. But I have been able to see this transformation of badminton in 30 years. If somebody says that miracles can't happen, I think what bigger miracle can you show than this one in 30 years, from nowhere to becoming a top team in the world as a Thomas Cup champion? I think that is what I see. I see today, but 20 years back, you would say, I want to take up sport, and people are like, forget it. But today, I think there's a substantial population which is saying, I would love to give this opportunity to my kid if they're good in sport, and if they want to pursue it, I'm happy to make them pursue sport. So I think that's something which has happened. The education system is also changing. The new education policy has taken a lot into consideration. Open schooling is held. Our perception and our acceptability of professions is also changed. Yes, of course, there needs to be a more change, but in a country as big as ours, I think it will take time. But I think as far as the effort of the government is concerned, I think they've been phenomenal, and I think I'm only just waiting for the next few years, because I just feel there was a software boom and there was an industrial revolution. I think a sports revolution is waiting to happen.